Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Tech Woke Podcast. And on this podcast, we talk about cybersecurity, GovTech, and life. And in today's podcast, we have an amazing guest. I was introduced to David McIltrot through a LinkedIn, and we had a conversation. He showed me a particular software that can help GRC and RMF professionals. And from looking through his software and just seeing how good it is, we eventually came together to talk about and give him some exposure to his software that he created. But outside of that, David McIltrot has been working in tech and cybersecurity in the GovTech space for over 20 years. He has brought a lot to the space, created software, and does a lot for the space. So without further ado, David McIltrot, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Chris. I'm very glad to be here. I'm excited to share what I have created, and I hope that those joining find some benefit and value in it as well. But thank you for giving me your platform as an opportunity to share this.
Yeah, and I think this is a privilege for me also because I never seen nobody create nothing like that. When you just popped out the blue with it, I was like, okay. I was going through it myself. I was like, and when I saw the demo, I was like, well, this can help a lot of people, just basic, just kind of with the fundamentals. And from a lot of people that have taken your software that I do know about, they just said that this is amazing software. And you built this thing from scratch. But before we get to that point, David, can you tell the audience who you are? Tell them about how you got to this point and just some of your experience of how you got into this space so the audience can know who you are.
Absolutely. It's been a long journey, and it has not always been a linear path to where I am today. But I am now a senior strategic voice still in the federal IT space after more than 20 years. And that has spanned multiple federal civilian agencies and DoD agencies, where some of my early days, I spent at the bottom, some would say, where I was on a help desk answering calls, doing the basic troubleshooting and password resets. And over the course of time, I progressed through many roles, ones that all ultimately helped shape who I am today and this product. But the basic system administration, application administration. And then it's like I blinked and I found myself leading advanced IT portfolios for government agencies, being responsible for their cyber posture. So the culmination of all of that experience is why I decided to build this. I felt that people at all experience levels deserve to have a sandbox to experiment and learn and grow some real tangible skills and be able to demonstrate capability rather than just recite a framework or something out of text, that would hopefully genuinely help them break into the cyber roles as so many people are these days. And then even at the more experienced end, I wanted there to be room in this product for advanced professionals to come in and still find capability to hone those skills that they've been spending years applying.
Yeah, and I understand. So, how did it come about? So you were working in the space, and again, you've been in this space for 20 years, still a good figure in this space. I know risk management is a big thing in the government, for example, and I know there's not a lot of places where you can kind of try and fail or get information about that. Is that was something that you needed, and what really made you come about it? Was it just seeing a coworker or a colleague, or you just wanted some place where you can kind of test out and fail a little bit? What made you come out with that particularly?
So in my brain, the earliest driver was my own troubles. Being responsible for producing artifacts, for an ATO package to satisfy controls. The gamut of them: auditing, accountability, contingency planning. I struggled with that early on. This would have been a decade ago now, and at that time, it's not like I didn't have anybody. I had my ISSOs and I had some support team, but I think we were all in the same boat a little bit, where we still didn't know what the AO truly wanted in that final package. So a number of years of that trial and error, extending the processes out was a big motivator. But then in more recent years, where I've been able to provide more high-level strategic support, still seeing professionals struggling at the level that I was, also was a a motivational factor to say, I have the power to do something about this. Why don't I? So, those were the two fuels for this.
It is interesting because when I was working, and I still continue to work in the space, I see so many people that struggle. Back in those times, I didn't really have nobody to go to. I had people I can talk to, but a lot of the times I had to fail over and over. And as you know, working in the government space, if I'm on a call with a project manager or somebody and they don't see that I know what I'm doing, I can get in serious trouble. Sometimes I might not even be respected in this space. So I love that you created something that somebody can go and test and sandbox and fail as much as possible to get that information. So another thing too, a lot of people want to get into this space, and just for the audience too, if you're just tuning in live, we're doing a live demo of his software of RMF and risk management. And again, if you're on the call too, make sure you comment, just let me know you're there. We're going to ask some questions towards the end of the podcast. So just make sure you're saying something as we go. But as you're working in the space, David, a lot of times hiring managers are looking for different things or different skills, whether it's EMS, controls, POA&Ms, and things like that. Why did you incorporate a lot of that stuff in, and how is that going to help people actually speak to that when you're interviewing for jobs? Break that down for me.
Yeah, this is probably the most important thing you could probably ask me, because I know we both see a lot of people asking, how do I get in? I have a Security Plus, or I have this other certification. I even have IT experience, but the specific cyber or GRC based roles are having a lot of difficulty getting in. So in those interviews, and I've conducted some myself, it's really not enough to be able to recite what the control states, and sort of claim understanding of what it means for applying an auditing policy based off of NIST's definition. But if you can articulate how or why you should have an auditing policy, what does that encompass, what groups does it incorporate, basically what you're doing is you're defending the risk decision. You're compiling what is or isn't an amount of risk into your statement, at which point eventually when that gets pushed up to the authorizing official, who is the final approver to accept the risk on this system you're working on, they're going to look at that and they're not going to question, are there gaps? Are there weaknesses being left in the system? So unfortunately, in the real world, you do that on a live production system. That in itself is risky. So being able to time and time again provide your input, write your statements, and get real-time feedback that's telling you your strengths, where you still have gaps, and also telling you, here are some areas to focus on. To me, it's invaluable because you are very much reducing your overall timeline, making you a very efficient resource in the space.
Yeah, and I understand. I get it. A lot of the times, like, for example, you're in a live production environment. You're dealing with the war fighter. You're dealing with NSS systems. Do I really want to go into a live production environment and test the control and say it's implemented, but it's not implemented? Do I want to add things to an ATO? What is an ATO? Those are a lot of things that you're talking about. And again, a lot of this stuff that's in what you're building and created is going to be in the private sector also. So it's going to be some aspects of it. How do you test? How do you validate? How do you create documentation? And it's in a safe environment. Again, a lot of employers are looking for that experience. Like, they're like, okay, can you explain it? Because it's different when you're in an interview. They're going to ask you that, and they're going to drill you to make sure you understand. Sometimes they might even ask you the 7 stages or this or that. They want to know that you actually know it. And sadly, a lot of people, even people that have been working in the field for 5-10 years, don't even know what to do. And that's just from what I've seen, from my own experience.
You're spot on, and I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that even there are moments I still freeze up on certain questions, but I will say a lot of times the instinct kicks in from all of the work that I have done shortly thereafter to sort of have a sense of calm come over myself and then say, what it is to really break down, the situation. And I also just kind of want to say, I'm really glad you brought the private sector into this. I know that what I built has a very heavy focus in the federal space, and I know I shift a lot of things towards the DoD mindset. But these impacts, these controls, these statements, the purpose for doing this and securing technology and information goes beyond the warfighter or, sort of a government system like that. If you have intellectual property, you have trade secrets, source code that you absolutely need to provide protection for, this stuff applies in that space too. So I'm really glad you said that. That's a great call out.
Yeah, no problem. And also, can you explain to the audience the importance of having hands-on experience and why it can be so difficult to get the training that you need? I do training. A lot of people do training. There's not a lot of people that do it. And sometimes when you talking to some people that do it, they don't actually know what's going on. They say, okay, we work in GRC. They said it's GRC and I do GRC, but they never worked in GRC. So why is it so hard to even get access to training like this? From your perspective, what do you think about that?
Yeah. So bearing in mind that I did spend my whole life either as a government employee or a government contract myself, that space is particularly difficult because those systems require either suitability determination or security clearances. So you can't even look or see behind the doors of those unless you have a sponsorship and a clearance and you're already onboarded. And then by then you pass go because there's no practice environment. They hand you a live system and and then you're there, you're in the hot seat. So yeah, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, and it's a whole chicken and the egg thing where, yeah, how do you get the experience if you can't be somewhere to try this stuff out? And for me, this is a bridge for at least part of that gap to provide a safe place with not real systems, not real data, but very real feedback and very real applicable scenarios that you can turn around and say, I know how to walk through this now. I know how to apply based on on these controls.
Nah, you just kidding. They just throw you into a live environment. There's no training at all. They just literally throw you in there and like, okay, what if this can mess up this or that? Like, there's nothing. And a lot of people that do get interviews or get the job sometimes, and I'm just saying for myself, I've noticed that people are grandfathered in or this or that. So, or just has a security plus, which is nothing wrong with that. So I'm glad that you kind of brought that up. And to the audience that's watching, we're talking to David. We're talking about RMF. We're going to show a live training soon, so make sure you hang on. We're definitely going to have some questions at the end. I just want to get to some of the comments. We have transferring from banking to GRC. Shout out to Cal. This is the best call to be on right now, so I'm glad you're on. We have Tech Bestie. She said, as a person in software as a service, I'm excited for this and great episode, Chris. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for David for being on. We're going to get a little bit more. So David, can you kind of one last thing I want to hit on this last topic, and then we're going to slowly get into the demo. Can you explain the importance of just doing hands-on over and over again, like you're training hands-on over and over again? Do you think that helps you for like doing the job or just talking about the job, or do you think what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think just like anything else in life, the more you do it, the better you become. I'm going to use a very common metaphor here that I think everybody will understand. Sports athletes, I know when I was a kid, there were a number of basketball and baseball players that I looked up to who were so good at what they did. And at the time, I was a kid. I didn't understand why they were that good. I just thought, oh man, look at this amazing person who can hit a baseball 450 feet out of a park. This is the same. The more practice, the more repetition that out of anything that you're going to do is going to increase your capability and make you better at it. And I also want to caveat that with I'm not dismissing any of the text, any of the boot camps that are text-based. Those are extremely valuable because they're also teaching you fundamentals about these, the NIST, whatever it is, 853, 800, 171. You're still gaining valuable insight from those. This takes it the next step. So now you're practicing the execution over and over again. And that knowledge and experience, to me, is what truly makes you successful.
I love to hear that. And then lastly, like you said, with your training is more hands-on. You can touch it, you can feel it. And there's nothing wrong with any other training. The last thing I wanted to kind of hit on, before we get into the demo, and then right now, and then after we do this question, we can get straight into it. Does your software incorporate a little bit of AI to help users, and how does it do it?
It does. And I think that's also a pretty important aspect of this. So when you are, and we'll see it here shortly, but when you're typing your implementation statement for whatever your control, you get feedback. Well, what's happening behind the scenes is not something that's just eyeballing it and randomly giving you feedback. What's happening is there's a rubric that I built based on my experience of reading and writing and reviewing SSPs for FSMA moderate and high systems. So what you submit is being checked for completeness against everything that control requires, and then it's determining the accuracy of that based on what an assessor would be looking for if they were actually reading that. So the AI here is your own little personal digital assessor in a sandbox. And yeah, I'm excited to show that.
Okay, so we're going to get straight into it. To the audience, before we get into the demo, just make sure you saying something. Just say if you have a question, concern as we go through the demo, and if you have questions at the end, we're definitely going to go through it. Just make sure you're saying something so we can make sure we're there. And then two, if you're on YouTube, make sure you like the video, comment, share the video so it can get to as many people as possible. Okay, so David, just you can go ahead and share your screen. You'll click the present section right there, and then you share your screen. You see it?
Yes, sir. Does it? I have a huge monitor. Like, does it allow me to pick one app?
Yes, sir. You can pick one app.
Okay, there we go. There we go. All right, bear with me.
You take your time. Hey, we're about to go into the live demo of RMF Pro to show you how you can definitely implement controls, test controls. And again, this software will help you when you're trying to get into the regular GRC space. So I'm gonna pull up his screen for you. There we go. And I'm gonna take myself off. David, you can go into and just break down as much as possible. I might come in and have a comment every now and then, okay?
Oh, please, I very much welcome it. So what you're seeing here, here's the homepage. Here's the landing zone. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but this is marketing. This is basically describing what this provides, the gaps that I certainly feel this bridges, and definitely a reason for wanting to be here. So if you haven't signed up, this will be the page you start on. You can sign up for free here at the Start for Free button, or the Get Started. I'm going to go ahead and sign into my existing account. For identity providers, Google accounts and GitHub are current. I'm actually very open to anybody who's watching or listening to feedback on this. I didn't want to overscope this. Felt that these two were probably pretty popular for people to have, but very much open to feedback on if you feel those are enough for creating accounts. So I'm going to sign myself in. and you end up on your dashboard. Now, obviously, you're going to see some things here that you wouldn't see on your own screen the first time, because I've been in here manipulating and creating systems. We'll dive into the details of this here shortly, but I kind of want to progress with you in a logical sense what is available to you in this application. So in the left column here in this menu are the core components. If you are not new to system authorizations in this space, you will know that everything begins with a categorization. And truth be told, this is an area that can still trip up even seasoned professionals. This is the process of rating your system low, moderate, or high based off of the good old-fashioned CIA triad. So what I've compiled here is an exercise, and one that I really would like to grow, that shows you how adding data types to a system, how it impacts its categorization. So trying to start off with something relatively common or easy here. Let's assume we have an HR system, and we're capturing PII and people's health insurance. So you can see the ratings here for across the board for these types. You have a couple lows, but the fact that healthcare here is moderate across the board, that gives you your high watermark for everything. And there are some data types that are particularly challenging. And I have one thrown in here for right now, just because it was suggested to me in a conversation, and I was very thankful that they suggested that to me. Shout out to Taylor if you are watching. But we talked about categories of data like human intelligence. So and I know this doesn't make sense, an HR system having human intelligence kind of doesn't seem logical, but for the purposes of this, I want to show how this is going to tell you, normally somebody might think, well, it's only high on these two, so therefore my availability is going to remain. But there's a little trick with some of these data types where when their confidence or their integrity high watermark is at this level, that applies across all your objectives. So this is in the early stages of this. Like I said, I only have this many data types in here, but this is something for, again, to come in and experiment with, so you can see how compiling different data sets impacts your categorization. From there, again, so like I said, that was the beginning. Before I show you the actual building of a system based off of that, I want to show you the control library here. So here's a full reference to the current NIST 853 Rev 5. So here's all 20 control families, 160 controls underneath that. At least I think that's current for right now. And this is just a guide. So if you're curious about, some contingency planning and you want to see what the text is, you don't have to go to NIST's website. What I'm pulling for you is the NIST definition for these. And I'm also giving you a plain English breakdown of that. Some of these, as most people are very well aware, are kind of ambiguous, not necessarily intuitive, which, again, is a problem that we're trying to solve here. So your control library here is just a giant reference guide for all of the controls for you to come in and reference and read. All right, let's get into some fun stuff here. So as I mentioned, everything does start with a system categorization, but here's where you get to have some fun. This is the real practice. You want to build an information system that you can practice. We are going to call this the demo system. And you can provide whichever kind of description you'd like. This is all just available for you. And for right now, I have a couple of different types of systems that you may want to focus on. Again, acknowledging that I'm still in the early stages of this, and I have hopefully I have a lot to add. But for now, I've selected a handful of common systems that you may encounter to give you some options here. So let's just choose a desktop application. And now we're going to rate it. So this could be, come in where you have experimented with your categorization. So you maybe have an idea what data controls you want to focus. And we're going to make one that's moderate across the board, which I think is fairly common in a lot of things. So this is where things can, in real world, become complex. We have a lot of different types of system authorizations, both inside and outside of the government, all with different purposes. Eventually, these selections will lead to the appropriate overlays that come with their own individual processes. So I'm sure maybe many of you have seen a lot of CMMC chatter in the last 6 months, particularly on LinkedIn. It's a rule. There's a lot of push for private sector agencies to become compliant in order to maintain being awarded government contracts. This has to deal with the securing of CUI data in their enclave. I like to pick DoD RMF, so I'm just going to select that one for our test system. And I click Create System, and there it is. And so, Chris may attest to this. This is where a lot of people find themselves. You've got a job. You're a cyber engineer or an ISSO or somebody who is now responsible for defending and implementing these controls, and a lot of times this is what you get, a blank slate. So you have to begin the process of documenting these.
I did want to say, that's where a lot of people start. You get straight into these controls. You're like, okay, well, we got 100 and some controls. We got this, what we should do. So yeah, David, your software is killing it. I just wanted to make sure the audience know this is where a lot of people start their career. What is going on? So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I'm glad it rang true. So a common, topic here or thing to tackle is account management. And we're not going to get deep into, identity and access management and all the nuances that come with that. But for the sake and the purposes of this, let's practice an account management implementation statement for our new demo information system. So again, you're brought in here, and I'm providing you what that control is telling you, what it's asking. But I'm also giving you the plain English to help make more sense of that, kind of better understand it in an effort to, help write a great statement. So what we're going to do first, though, is write a not so great statement. And I am just going to say that the live demo system does have an account management policy. I know that that's very generic, but I want to show you that. So the rubric that I was talking about that was designed to think like an assessor and provide the real feedback is what happens when you click the Submit AI for review. So it's now taking my text that I wrote here, applying that logic, looking at it from an assessor's perspective, and it's going to give me feedback, which you can see was not very good. 8 out of 100, you can bet, is not going to pass for a solid control statement. But in a very kind way, it's telling me, okay, it acknowledges that you have a policy. So we're at least aware of some sort of policy and procedures required for this. And I mean, that is absolute bare minimum. But the real gem here is the next two. So now it's guiding you on your gaps. What did you miss? What are you leaving out? So it's like it's telling you, well, you didn't talk about how accounts are created or they're modified or disabled, which is all very important in terms of applying controls on an information system. And then a little suggested focus here. How do you get closer to a better statement that's inclusive of this? So we're going to try to bump this up a few points. Things that are nice are actual references. So I'm saying it has an account management policy, and I'm just going to reference it. Account policy.docx. So now it knows that that document is the policy I am referring to. And I can further elaborate, as it suggested, this details how new accounts are created. Actually, I'll even take a step back there. Approved, created, modified, disabled, and eventually removed. Who else can we add? You can list the positions of the people. I'm not going to do that here, but that's something that's often would be found in a policy. So your groups or people in particular who provide those approvals, modifications, and so forth. Let's just see what adding these two simple changes, what that does to our score, though, because I didn't add a lot, but this will sort of demonstrate a little bit of the progression that you can get in your feedback. So look at that. All I did was actually reference the policy document that I said existed, and then based on its suggestion, I told it that that's what tells us how the accounts are approved, how they're created, the process. And we went from 8 to 25. So small, subtle changes. And now back to what Chris and I were talking about earlier, this is the feedback you don't get in the real world. There's when you get some rejected artifacts, in my experience, so I don't want to speak in totality, but in my experience, it rarely includes some detailed response as to why it was not rejected. It may more or less be a sentence or two stating that it's unacceptable and it quote unquote needs to contain more details, but you're not getting the feedback that you get here. And this is now leaving a finding open, a POA&M open, which is essentially accepted risk for extended periods of time. So being able to come in here and just bounce this off again and again and again until you eventually see your score creeping up here. And I sort of I set the threshold here for at 80 for like a really good score. And genuinely, I think if you write stuff that gets you that here, they're going to be very solid statements. But I did set it. Let me save this and I'll show you briefly why I did that. Every person who creates an account here, you're going to get your own portfolio. And this was meant to be fun. This was meant to be challenging. This was meant to be motivational. But, some of these are, my own little created digital badges. So here's my threshold for 80. If you can score 80 or above on an implementation statement, you get to unlock the Sharp Assessor badge. Again, hopefully genuinely boosting confidence in your capability for what you are doing here. Because make no mistake about it, this is not easy. It takes time, but you'll get one of these, and this gives you a snapshot at how you're doing. Right now, the system is, my app is wide open. Everybody can come in. You can create an account, and nothing is locked down. So you can create as many mock systems as you want. And I encourage you all to do that, whoever's out there listening. I want to call out that on the right of every page is this feedback button. Use this as many times as you see fit to drop me feedback on something you like, something you didn't like, maybe something's broke and I'm not aware of it. Please use that as much as possible. I really want to tailor this to your needs. I know that I can carry it so far, but the more of you, the more real people that are in here and actually practicing and providing that feedback, the better this is going to be. It's just a great circle of help here. So for a second, let me pivot back to the system that we have created, our demo system. All of the controls, all the applicable controls, these all come together in what you know is the SSP. And the SSP may either induce PTSD for some, or you may be very excited about it. It's just an absolutely massive and very intimidating document. But what it is the story of your system. So all of these controls, everything that you're documenting for your system, from the account management policies, applying principle of least privilege to those users, your auditing and accountability controls, logging, everything you put in here comes together and forms a comprehensive document known as the System Security Plan. I have a couple in here because of the systems that I created. So the one that we just did is obviously not comprehensive because I literally only wrote that one control, and even one that I have here, I think I only did a few. But why I think this is important to go back to, what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of having a sandbox environment to test in? Again, it's demonstrating those skills. So even though you're all just hearing about this for the very first time, I strongly believe that anybody here who's trying to break into the space, if you came in and created a system and wrote some controls and you generated your own SSP and were sitting in an interview, if I was interviewing you and you came to me and said, well, I've never been hands-on on a live system, but I created a mock system and here's a whole SSP of that system, I am going to be blown away. And I'm hoping that you all find that same value in this so that you can do the same thing. Create a system, eventually build an SSP, and start building a real portfolio of your experience that you can use in the real world, much like we have seen people doing for a decade now with platforms like GitHub. Your casual software developer who needed to have a portfolio, or I'll say wanted to have a portfolio to showcase Java skills for that next job that they were going to get. How do you do that unless you've actually done it? So, this is here, and that is why. Chris, I see you come back on. I want to take a pause here and see where we're at, and make sure we're running okay on time.
No, we're running okay on time. I just wanted to come back up because there was some people who had some questions, just to kind of help you with that. Just so that the audience y'all understand, what David is showing is very helpful because it's showing you the 7 steps of RMF: preparing a system, creating a system, controls. You're doing categorization. You're selecting the controls. You're showing implementation statements. You're processing for the ATO. A lot of things that he's showing is very important to the space, and it helps also with the private sector because you're doing those same things. And I just want you to, David, I have a couple questions out here that they wanted to say. We have Prime from the pod. He said, I've been in RMF for almost 4 years and just accepted a job as an ISSO. And so he said this software is dope, man. So.
Well, that's great. Can we pause before you get to the other ones? So,
Okay.
Primo for the pod, let me just show you real quick here, the scenario section. This is going to directly apply to you. This section here, again, early in the build phase, I only have 2 scenarios, but this was meant to exactly put you in the ISSO seat. And what I've crafted here are a couple of short scenarios. I'll start one so you can see, but they are designed to make you put yourself in the ISSO seat and make answers. So what I did here, here's the scenario. You're the ISSO for the new DARTS, the Defense Readiness Tracking System. I hope that never becomes a real thing because I made it up and I think it was super cool. But I'll have to adjust if that comes to be a thing. So we're giving you the background here, setting the stage for you, and you walk into the job and you've got to answer questions. So now you're asked this situation here. You've assessed confidentiality as moderate, integrity as moderate. Now we're talking about availability, and you have to make a decision. So based on what we've known here, wonder what our availability is. I'm just going to make a quick call and say, well, these 2 are moderate. Let's just make it moderate. And you're going to submit that. And again, in the real time here, using the same scoring engine, this is going to tell you whether that's like not so great, acceptable, or like really good. So I picked the moderate one, which is telling me it's acceptable. And it's telling me why. It's like, okay, your head's in the right place. But, basically what I did was I made a play it safe call. And rightfully, it's calling me out, and rightfully so, for basically assuming the previous 2 were moderate. But it's cautioning me, that there's a cost with that. So potentially, if you don't need the moderate availability, if you only need low, now you're applying more controls than are necessary, so more work. But also you could be underselling it. The availability may in fact need to be high, and now you're basically exposing risk because you're not going to apply all the appropriate controls. So great timing for the comment, and I just wanted to pop in here and show that then, because this is specifically geared towards somebody sitting in the ISSO seat. And I'm actually very excited to sort of build this out with a number of challenging scenarios. So Chris, I'd love to go ahead and go back to you and hear what else people have to say.
Yeah, so and then that's very good too. So make sure you check that out. Definitely being in the ISSO seat and actually having a real scenario, that is very great. We also have somebody that actually said, I was late. He said I was late, and again, after this question, we can go straight. You can finish out the demo and just we can get to the questions later. But he had a question about the AI. Is it just only used for feedback, or can it do more? And then after that, you can just finish the demo.
You got it. So good question, but I am only using the AI for that feedback. If you have a thought or an idea, again, take this little feedback button, drop your thoughts in there. I'd love to hear what maybe you're thinking, and who knows, maybe that could become a reality.
Okay. All right, you can go ahead, David, and finish out, and then we're going to have questions later.
Yeah. So one other thing I think that's very worth showing here back into our practice systems, is again, it's that dreaded word POA&Ms. When you're going through that process, everybody gets POA&Ms. It's inevitable, but they're not to be feared. They are just part of this process. So to sort of de-stress yourself about the eventuality of you facing them, you have the option here to create your own POA&Ms in order for you to, again, cycle through the process. This is teaching you that you know how to create one appropriately based on all the levels of risk, but also that you are knowledgeable about the process to address it. We had basically no controls, so media. I'm just going to make one up here. No media protection policy. And then, oh no, our media is exposed. So MP2, I'm just gonna bump it up because I think, oh, that's high risk for here. I'm just gonna open it for right now. We opened it today. You know, there are associated timelines typically with getting POA&Ms closed, but based on critical, high, moderate, or low severity. I did bump this up to high. I'm going to give it a little over a week here. And then, this is a little bit more free form, but like in the real world, you may know who will either be responsible or sort of codependent upon helping resolve this, system administrators will need to weigh in, and then just make a little comment like that. And then you can create your POA. So now, again, as you're risk assessing your system, providing those implementation statements, you're now also able to simulate, the gaps that you'll eventually have, and creating POA&Ms for those gaps, and eventually coming back in here. Come back in here next Tuesday, and you can close it out, or you can see what happens if it's delayed. So another critical process to risk assessment here, is POA&Ms, and I would say one that I've seen churn a lot of people. Sometimes you can get into the dozens of POA&Ms, and it can seem like you're never going to resolve them. But I assure you, it's just time and patience, and you can accomplish anything. So, Chris, I do believe those are all the components, and I think everything that I had hoped to show here. So I'm ready to tackle questions if somebody has posted them, or some more from yourself as well. Either way.
Most definitely. I think you hit on it the most. With validated controls, with going through scenarios, you're always getting feedback, understanding, interview questions. I think a lot of this is going to help that person that's trying to get into the space. I'm going to tackle some of these questions, and if I have any more, I'll ask you. He said, so we have Colt Husha. He said, is it the same approach if you were work in a private sector industry? Well, what's your thoughts on that when it comes to the GRC space?
I would say it can be. There is nuance to that. There are a lot of private organizations who choose to adhere to the NIST frameworks for securing. I say securing. What I should be saying is for risk assessing their information systems. That is not always the case. Some private sector companies choose to use ISO standards. And one time, it's been a number of years, I did a mapping of ISO 27001 and NIST 853. It was Rev 4 at the time, but I did a mapping, a matrix of those controls. So there's a lot of similarity here. It may not exactly look like this, but I think I would like to take that as feedback. Can I incorporate some of that into this engine that is geared towards those frameworks? I think that's something I can and should consider.
Okay, that's good. And yeah, definitely. That would help out for the private sector too. And I'm glad that they put that thought out there. It definitely can be used for both if you do it the right way. We have Tech Bestie. She said, being able to come to interviews with a self-created system is currency, literally the name of the game in today's market. Can't wait to get into this software. How does it make you feel, David?
Amazing. So, yeah, I don't know. I think my smile is just going to say it all. Thank you for that. I genuinely appreciate that feedback.
No problem. And then we have Tech Bestie. She said, I already created an account, so you got another user. So
it's amazing.
Tech Bestie, make sure you go in there, and if you have any critiques, criticisms, or anything, you just let him know so he can make it better. The purpose of this is to help get as many users as can, so we can make this the best software that you can. And again, David built this software from scratch by himself, like literally bubble gum and cardboard. He put this together, so he did a great job doing this. When I seen this, it's very good. Yeah.
Thank you. May I add a strip of duct tape in there as well?
There's a little duct tape in there. Just put it together and created such an amazing software. Also, too, if anybody has any more questions, do y'all have any more questions or concerns about the software? Anybody? And if you do, just make sure you write a comment. If you're on YouTube, make a comment. Also, like the video, share the video, and also check out the software. The software is in the description, so just make sure you check it out and tell them what's going on. So, David, is there anything else you want to hit on the software or show, or you think you touched on everything?
Nothing I would additional to show, but I would like to echo to you and your community, everybody here who's joined, and made comments on the previous LinkedIn post, that really my goal here is to create something of value. And in order for that to be successful, I know that I'm dependent upon community feedback to tell me where this falls short for them and things that you would like or need to see in order to make it better. So I just can't stress enough, don't hesitate to provide the feedback, whether you like something or not. That's what's going to make this a stronger piece of software. In my near roadmap, I would like to say I am planning some more DoD specific areas that address STIGs and CCI mapping, two things that we didn't touch on, but are complex little animals themselves. But, just like the person mentioned there about private sector, if there's something you'd like to see in here, it's relative to this space, just let me know. I'm happy to accommodate.
We have Michael. He said, "Thank you, Dave. I created an account. This will really help my next team." So shout out to Michael.
Thank you, Mike.
And we have Colt Fusha. He said, "I just created an account. Definitely appreciate you checking out the account. If you like the account, just make sure you upgrade later on so you can have more options." But yeah, thank you everybody for checking out the account and checking everything. So David, can you tell the audience, first off, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me through that feedback button. There's also a contact page with an email address. I have an about me. In fact, let me show you this. Present. I think this is probably all right. So at the top of my website, you will find a little about page here. This is a short blurb about me. Gives you a little bit about my history, some things I've gone through, and link directly to my LinkedIn. And I'm not a credential stuffer, but things that I've had or been required to do in the past. If you're interested in some of the tests and things that I have gone through, there's a link to my Credly account for those badges as well. But find me in any of those places, either LinkedIn, drop me a note here. I'm around, and I'm more than happy to talk and help this community.
Yeah, definitely make sure you go up there, check him out, connect with him, give him feedback, questions. Make sure you check out David. David, also too, just so we can finalize things, what is one thing, it can be a quote, statement, or any information that you want to give to the audience to keep pursuing their dream, whether it's in the government or training or anything, just one thing you want to lead the audience with?
Yeah, don't give up. If you are truly that excited about something, that passionate about something in your life, personally or professionally, do not give up. Progress is rarely linear. We all go through some pitfalls and some undesirable situations, but if you don't give up, you will get to where you desire to be.
Yeah, and that's a spoken word from David. He said, "Don't give up." Again, sometimes I've talked to people that took 3 years and they're managers in IT now. People I've interviewed, people I've talked to, just don't give up. Whether it takes 2, 3 years, 4 years, if that's truly your dream, don't give it up. And I thank you for David for saying that. That's something that you just got to keep on. I'm gonna keep on to that myself.
Appreciate you.
Okay. We have Brandon. The podcast is going to be recorded. So after this ends, you can go back and check it out and see all that information. So for anybody that's watching, remember, if you're on YouTube, remember, like the video, comment down below if this helped, share the video. Make sure you check out rmfacademy.io. Make sure you check out David's software and make sure you click the link in the bio to make sure you're clicking on that, checking out his lab. And remember, everybody, get 1% better every day. Peace out, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody. Peace.